Like right as I was walking into the stadium, I got a text from David Hamilton, and it was just a heart. And I hadn't texted him in a little while, so I didn't know. So I kind of had a feeling of what was going on, but then I got in there, and him and Flo and DC were in there, and he's pretending like he can't pull up this play on his computer or whatever, and he's like, "Well, you can go make a backhand in the big leagues, right?" And then.
So we didn't really get the time I didn't get the chance at least to talk to you about this, but what was the phone call like or the conversation like when you got called up?
Yeah, so Tracy had texted me, and we were home in Worcester, and I lived so close that it was really quick for me to get over to the stadium. And he texted me like, "Hey, can you come in? We got to talk about some defensive positioning stuff." And this was probably like an hour and a half before our report time. So I thought that was kind of weird. And I had played everywhere on the field, so unless this was going to be moving me to catcher, I didn't know like what this could be about. And I feel like I've been not like looking forward to it, like trying not to look forward to that moment, but or not expecting it either. But anytime something weird kind of happens, it pops into your head, right? Like, oh, maybe this is it. So I'd almost gotten that so far out of my head, but this one felt kind of weird. And then, like right as I was walking into the stadium, I got a text from David Hamilton, and it was just a heart. And I hadn't texted him in a little while, so I didn't know. So I kind of had a feeling of what was going on, but then I got in there, and him and Flo and BC were in there, and he's pretending like he can't pull up this play on his computer or whatever, and he's like, "Well, you can go make a backhand in the big leagues, right?" And then just a lot of love for those guys. I'm really glad that Chad and Flo and that group got to be the ones to call me up, because I think that was pretty special for me, so special for him too. So yeah, that's how that all went down.
I remember a little bit, like a few weeks prior to this, Alex Cora had mentioned that you were going to get a shot at some point, and I don't know I don't know how much people read into that, but had there been conversations with you about the situation with this and when maybe it's something that could happen?
Honestly, not really. I think, I mean, in spring training, I had a good camp, and there was words kind of like just go down and keep doing what you're doing, and stuff like that, and even with Abe's and you know people that are in charge, it was trending that direction for sure. But you got to go do it too. So all that stuff in spring training is great, but if you go flop during the season, you're not just gonna you got to earn it the whole way. So I think there's something where, and then kind of moving to first base, like there were things that were trending towards it happening, but I don't know. I feel like it's something that you never know is going to happen until it does.
What is the best part of being a big leaguer? Now, I mean, you were in Worcester for a while. You've had your
Right.
share of the minor leagues. What is the best part of being in the major leagues?
For me, personal fulfillment is a big piece of this. Um, but at the same time, like even some of my friends were like, "Oh, does it like feel like you made it or whatever?" And like, I think it all honestly doesn't at the same time. I feel like I always kind of am chasing like, well, now I want to, make the team this year and then become a starter, an everyday player, and then work towards, I don't know. I guess that's just how my mind works. But I would say it definitely feels good to know that I climbed that mountain to get to that position, and kind of the route I had to take to get there. I know, not an inch of it was given to me. So that definitely feels good.
You said something that I remember this. It was so you came up, you got sent back down after a bit. You were striking out a bunch,
Right.
and I remember that I went to I was talking with you in the dugout, and you said, and this probably isn't word for word, but you basically said the only way to learn how to hit big league pitching is to get more reps against big league pitching. and you weren't sure when you were getting called back up. And like, there was a real, almost like a frustration in your voice with that. Like, you knew what you had to do. You just needed to get the opportunity to do it. And the next day you got called back up. And I still remember this because I had tickets for the game. They were playing the Blue Jays, and Bowden Franson was like he was just shutting everybody down. And I remember you getting a hit off of him.
Right.
It was, I think it was like one of like 2 hits they got in the entire. It wasn't a great offensive performance, but what was that like getting called up for the second time? Because the first one, like, you know, like you don't know what to expect. The second time, you know exactly what you need to work on. You know a little bit better what you're going up against. What is that like I guess the second time you get called up and know that like, okay, I'm going to redeem myself here?
It was a huge difference for sure. It really was. And not to say, you know, I had it figured out, because I think no one, you know, you never figure it out. You're always learning, you know, through the rest of, till you're done playing, you're always learning. But I think what I was able to learn with the first stint, compared to like then, even the second time I was up, I think I sat for over 2 straight weeks. I think I went 14 consecutive games without starting a game. So even, and I'd come in on defense here and there, but I think I went like 14 games without an at bat. So even just sitting there, kind of learning, you know, using that time to my advantage, I think was really important. I was working with Rosie a ton in the cage during that time, and I think we made a couple mechanical adjustments, as well as just starting to understand the game flow a little bit. And then I think that allowed me to have a pretty good month of September when I was out there.
That's interesting because I remember early in the season, something similar happened with David Hamilton, where he struggled, especially defensively early, but he didn't get sent down. They put him on the bench for a lot of it, and then he came back out and suddenly he got red hot. Was there anything in particular that stands out as something that you learned while you were just watching the game?
It's hard to like pinpoint one singular thing. I think the game itself is very similar, but the style of play is very different at the same time. So it's like, I think that was kind of similar to what I was telling you when I was back down, is it's something that even after feeling like I had just gotten socked in the mouth 10 times over the first time I went up, it felt something that was like very doable and very attainable for me. It was just very different. And, you know, I'd also, to your point, been in Worcester the last like almost 2 full years. So I think part of that is I was just getting very accustomed to that style of play and how can I dominate this level. And, you know, whereas maybe you're moving through the minor leagues more, you're just, you know, whatever. I think I was almost honing in on a specific style of baseball that's being played at AAA for the last 2 years. So I think just the style of play being different and understanding, I think just what pitchers are trying to do, what their stuff actually does, how catchers are calling the game. Everything defensively felt the same, very normal. Base running felt all the same. As just kind of how to conduct an at bat there is a little bit different.
When you say the style changes, like what's the maybe not every difference, but like what are some of the bigger differences that took some getting used to for you between AAA and the majors?
I think there's a lot of specialists on the mound where they really have, obviously, I mean, it's the best baseball in the world, so this shouldn't be like a surprise, but you know, there's not a fastball that's being thrown that's just like a flat straight fastball, you know. Or so even within like stuff with my approach, where in AAA, if a guy had a you know, a great carry heater, I'd just push it down and wait for him to throw one lower, right? And or here, when in the big leagues, they're not going to throw one lower, or you know, they might, but you know, so it's kind of just understanding what they're trying to do on the mound better, kind of adjusting game plan, understanding what I do, but knowing kind of what they're trying to do and understanding that they're going to do what they're trying to do, you know, versus expecting to get multiple mistakes per at bat, you know, maybe in AAA.
Gotcha. That's interesting. You mentioned the defense also kind of feeling the same, and that's something. It's funny because I saw you play so much in AAA, and I always thought you were a good fielder, but I don't know if you appreciate it quite as much until you see it at the major league level, and you're making very difficult plays look routine. I felt, especially at third base, Like it was really fun to watch. Did you
I
feel
appreciate
that your defense stepped up a little bit when you got to the majors, just like higher level, bigger stage, you adapt accordingly? Or was it just more, did it feel like it was just, oh, okay, I'm just doing what I've always done?
both. So I was having probably the worst defensive season of my career in AAA, and it still wasn't a bad defensive season, but I think that's normally the by far the strength of, my game. So I just feel like I was by no means getting bored of being in AAA. Like I'm honored to play every day. I try to play as hard as I can every day, whatever. But I just think like going up was like it's different for sure. The energy's different. Everything is a lot different. I feel like I was kind of looking forward a lot during the year too versus just being present, which was leading to a lot of kind of uncharacteristic mistakes on defense. So I think to your point, um, yeah, I think I just got back to doing what I do when I was up there, but it just kind of took like it almost just was like a reset for me, which was really nice, and it came at like a time that was really important too. It was kind of like late August. I felt like I was kind of dragging too, and it almost just restarted my season, which was really good for my mind.